All right, what's that one thing that says it is an election year? Well, many things. Here among them is the increased political activities, right? Tonight, the political temperatures are heating up. Testy language on the podium, threats of arrest and actual arrests, counter-narrative and political campaigns, talking at each other, all those. If you find the times a bit confusing and a little too much to take, brace yourself. We have 7 more months of this intensity. With all due respect, what is really happening in politics today? Tonight, treat this as a primer. Cheruiyot Senator Cheruiyot, first time to the program. Karibu sana.
Thank you, James.
Glad to have you.
Asante.
And also, Homa Bay Senator Otieno Kajwang, first time to the program as well.
Oh, yeah, indeed.
Thank you very much for coming to the program.
Thank you. Welcome.
Right, gentlemen, I have to say, one of the things that once we put out the posters, like, we want to see this meeting of minds. You know, the best from Deputy President's column, the best from a Prime Minister's column. Help you understand tonight, for everyone who's trying to figure out what's happening, all right? Tonight, Jimmy Wanjigi is spending a night in the cells. He says this is all political. If anything, he says it's the ODM leader, Raila Odinga, who's put him there. How would you react to this?
Well, I think that's rather ridiculous. I saw in the news you described Jimmy Wanjigi as an ODM aspirant, an ODM presidential aspirant.
Right.
So yes, Jimmy Wanjigi is a member of the ODM party. He confesses that he subscribes to the ideals of the ODM party. And I think in all his narratives, public narratives, he has consistently said, even when he was with Kalonzo Musyoka somewhere a few days ago, that Raila Odinga is his friend and Raila Odinga has never wronged him in any way. In fact, Kenyans can still recall, at a time when Jimmy Wanjigi was facing what we then considered prosecution or persecution by the state, it is Raila Odinga who went and camped in his house and caused a stalemate. I do not want to, because it's a very live matter,
yes,
and we still don't have any information. Even you, the media, did not tell the nation why Jimmy Wanjigi is being held. But there needs to be regard for the rule of law. We must get rid of this aspect where we are ruled by law rather than rule of law. If there is a suspicion of any person of a criminal nature, matters need to be undertaken in a civilized way, especially at a time when we are approaching campaigns. And I'm not saying that those people who have declared that they are presidential aspirants should be treated in any special way, but it needs to be done in a proper manner so that everyone is satisfied. So
the handling was a bit over the top.
I think what we've seen in social media about the siege, what we've seen in social media about anti-terror police unit being deployed to arrest a civilian, that is a little bit scary.
Right.
I would want to wait to hear from the DCI and from the relevant officers what it is that this ODM presidential aspirant has been accused of. But it would be ridiculous. It will be, I think, fantasy to accuse Raila Odinga, who does not have control over the police, who does not have any control over the instruments of violence, right, or instruments of coercion in this country. Raila Odinga cannot be accused of persecuting Jimmy Wanjigi.
Right. Senator, what do you read the happenings today in the bigger scheme of what's been happening politically?
Well, thanks, James. Jimmy Wanjigi is a victim of what has been happening to many of us, those of us who are critics of this current administration, those of us who don't agree with the direction that Kenya, our beloved country, has taken, where for a long time we've told you that the institutions of investigation have been weaponized and are being used to play politics. It is no sheer coincidence that exactly 48 hours after Jimmy Wanjigi issued a very hard-hitting statement against Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who's now a candidate of the state, that government clamped down on him as heavy as they did today. This is something that most of us have been accustomed to. We have seen many of those colleagues of mine who identify with us in our political camp have had to live by, where when you either criticize government, if you're a governor, the following day you have letters from EACC. If you're a member of parliament, you have DCI trailing you, and this kind of thing. So this was expected. Many of us actually saw it coming, because It is the politics of this country at this moment. It's quite unfortunate. It is shameful. It's retrogressive. It's barbaric. It's everything that you don't want to wish upon a 21st century constitutional democracy such as Kenya. But unfortunately, this is all being done at the behest and at the aiding of Raila Odinga. It is not just aimed at Jimmy alone. It is aimed at others who may perhaps want to challenge him or who don't agree, who want to come out. Many people actually speak to us, and not everyone has the conviction of thought and the place of mind to be able to come out and strongly speak out, as Jimmy is saying, that I don't believe this is a man who should be leading this country at this particular moment.
Right.
And when you do that, what has happened to Jimmy will happen to you.
So you translate this to mean that everyone has said Raila Odinga is not the person to be the president and he should not run for whatever reason, is being persecuted by state, is being done at the behest of Raila Odinga.
Exactly. And I believe he is actually at the center of all this. Because
how
do you explain that it is only at the moment when you speak out about the things that perhaps he has done or the things that he's doing? Jimmy spoke on Saturday at the meeting where Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka was meeting delegates from his community in his Yatta farm. And he had choice words for Raila, why he thinks he would be the worst choice for him to be elected at this particular time. And he was quite frank and said, I don't think this is a Raila that Kenyans have known over the years, that this is a man who's desperate at this particular point and he can do anything for power.
Okay.
Hardly 48 hours later, police show up in his office, anti-terror police. They have no logical explanation why they are doing what. I saw some papers flying around in social media that it's a land transaction. If it's about land, then for heaven's sake, why are you sending anti-terrorism police unit? Okay. Why are you detaining the man overnight? If the charges are ready, then they would have easily summoned him to appear before DCI headquarters and taken him to court tomorrow. But it has all the traits of political persecution. And I have told you, this is not just aimed at Jimmy. It is aimed at anybody who at this moment is contemplating supporting anyone other than the state project that is Raila Odinga.
I think it's political cowardice to hide under other people's skirts. If there is anybody with the power to arrest, and if there is anyone with the power to order or to provide orders to the security forces to take certain actions, it is a president of the Republic of Kenya who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. It is a CS for interior, and it is the instruments that we've established. Raila Odinga does not exist and is not is a stranger to all those structures. If our friends who today have become the Poles, because when we were passing the security laws, they are the ones who were telling us if we wanted to go to hell, we would just go to hell, because the security amendment laws had to be passed the way they were. Indeed, I think Aaron and I were just getting into the Senate, but those people we found in Parliament at the time when the security amendment laws were being processed, there was a partisanship that was extremely dangerous for this country. Today, the same laws that they celebrated,
right,
the same laws that were ready to fight. I remember Mudhama, Johnston Mudhama, the current chairman of UDA, who's screaming and who's wailing more than the bereaved, was almost thrown from the speaker's gallery to the floor when he came there with James Orengo to protest the manner in which the National Assembly was processing that law. Boni Khalwale, who is now in UDA and wailing like a virgin, was in that speaker's gallery.
Yeah.
You see, nowadays in Kenya, you take positions based on what 2022 looks like and what your prospects for re-election look like. And sometimes people think that by whipping Raila Amolo Odinga for things that he knows nothing about, they are going to get mileage. I want to challenge Aaron. You know who the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, you know who the convener of the Security Council in this country is. If you think there's a problem, and if you think there's a misapplication of those instruments of force and violence, call out the president directly. Don't call Raila Amolo Odinga, who is not in those offices. Indeed, James, it cannot be that everyone who's been arrested has been arrested because they disagree with Raila Odinga. Aaron here, who's my friend, I know disagrees with Raila Odinga on almost everything. The other day when he was called to the NCIC, Was he called there because he had abused Raila? No, he was called because he had bastardized an entire community in this country, the Asian community in this country, at a rally in Eldoret. When my friend and colleague, Senator Linturi, was summoned and was arrested in dramatic fashion, was it because he disagrees with Raila Odinga? No, absolutely not. It's because he made hateful and insightful remarks that have the potential of drawing blood in this republic. So let us not politicize, and let us not put Odinganize every arrest in this country. If you have a problem with the security forces, blame the president. Guys are afraid of blaming the president, hiding behind their mother's skirts, and they don't want to call out the president. Let them call out the president if they're bold enough.
This has been very tasty for my first round, and I want to take a short break. But
yeah, there's something that
30 seconds.
Three quick things that I wish to say.
Yes.
You see, the reason why we mentioned Raila Odinga is because this is being done at the behest. Of course, it's a president who's in charge, but don't forget that president has a project known as Raila Odinga. And that is why all this is being done. You know, for a long time, Raila has lived this life claiming that, oh, you know, I'm pro-democracy, I have built my life and sacrificed for this current constitution.
But Senator,
yet
what
the
powers
tragedy,
does he have?
Just give me a few minutes or a few seconds without interrupting.
Yes.
Then I'll come to that question. All this is being done to push and force Kenyans into supporting him. Yet, all throughout the years, he has claimed to be a supporter of democracy. I thought at this particular time, he would still keep in line with his creed and the beliefs that he has always told Kenyans that he believes in, and speak out against many of these ills. In fact, Senator Kajwang, you give a very good example, which I want to challenge you on. Let me leave myself out of this conversation, because first of all, you got the whole conversation wrong. I never bastardized any community. The challenge and the charge at NCIC was about an individual member that I referred to him based on his racial orientation, which is a simple thing. It's not about a community, as you try to say. But compare how Mithika Linturi was handled when he spoke the way he spoke, and how the member for Kitutu, what's his name, Onyonka, the way he was handled. When it comes to Mithika, he was bungled in a car, arrested at, I think, 2 a.m. in the morning. Onyonka said worse things, because he spoke about a community, the kind of things that you wouldn't expect, actually. What Onyonka said was actual hate speech. Linturi misspoke, but look at how it was handled. Onyonka was simply given a phone call and told, please, if you find time in the course of your busy schedule, please pass by any police station that is near you. And I'm told he was there for hardly 2 minutes and left. This kind of selective application of a law is what we continue to complain against and say that unless we have equal application of the rule of law to all. Final thing, James, just before we break. There's this nauseating argument that ODM keeps on having about the security amendment laws. I'd wish Senator Kajwang to point to us this evening which particular clause in that particular law that we passed specifically gives police the power to selectively persecute those who don't agree with the views of the state at this particular moment. Any that gives them the powers to detain people the way they are doing those who are of a particular political persuasion. If he quotes any of that phrase, I'd be more than glad to agree with him that they're right. Otherwise, it's just a fallacy and a theory that they keep banning around, while they know the truth of the matter is that many Kenyans are being persecuted for not supporting the state project.
All right. Senator Aaron Cheruiyot versus Kajwang. We have plenty more. That sets the stage for what you're going to talk about next. Exactly why are we in this state, and when did this exactly start? Because the best application of the law, has it started now, or has it been happening from before? And what do you about it? You're watching With All Due Respect. Taking a short break. We'll be right back.
Since the pandemic, all mums know to be cautious of the many kinds of everyday germs that spread easily. Get peace of mind and protect the ones you love with the power of Dettol Bar Soap. It cleans and protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs. So no matter what type of mum you are, trust Dettol. This back to school, get discounts and gifts with Dettol Soap at the supermarket and online.
Oh, want to set Dokahitoke Mwadhani as your skiza tune,
dial *811 *937 hash.
That is *811 *937 hash.
Skiza na Nation,
supporting local talent.
Why do we do it? Hide, cover up, tone down. Choose boldness. Celebrate the skin you're in and dress with confidence with Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Body Lotion. The triple layered care of deep moisture serum, precious cocoa butter and vitamin E enriches your skin for 48 hours. It's time to show off your best skin. Wear your skin with pride every time with Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Body Lotion.
You do your best out there, let us do our best in here with the disinfecting power of Jake. Because Jake cleans and kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs and COVID-19 in your home. Jake, your family's guardian against germs and COVID-19.
2022 is here with Safari Link special offers. You want to fly to Diani Vipingo, Malindi, Kisumu, Masai Mara, Nanyuki Kamok, Amboseli, Samburu, Lewa, Luisaba, or Tsavo. Take advantage of our special rates. Book now through flysafarilink.com or call 0730 888 000. Use promo code CHAMS to get a 5% discount.
Molfix, let's see what they're developing right now.
Pants is just for me. It really feels very comfy.
Molfix pants with anatomic fit technology. New Molfix pants, an invention from babies for babies.
You should also try Molfix.
You do your best out there, let us do our best in here with the disinfecting power of Jake. Because Jake cleans and kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs and COVID-19 in your home. Jake, your family's guardian against germs and COVID-19.
That stupid judge friend of yours was supposed to help us, and he didn't do anything, period. And now he's involving the studio with what happened with Hema.
Well, they have no proof on it, and that's the reason why
Listen, I'm not going to spend a minute in jail, because that'll put an end to my career and my life over my dead body.
Whoa, Vanessa, hold on a sec. Put that away, don't touch it.
Buy a 50 by 100 plot of land for only 399,000 Kenya shillings. Leap up 350k and get an instant shopping voucher worth 10k pop. Call us on 0790 300 300 or visit our website on www.optiven.co.ke.
All right, welcome back. You're watching With All Due Respect with Senator Moses Otieno Kajwang and Senator Aaron Cheruiyot. Gentlemen, just before we left, the question still lingers on. When did this sort of misapplication of the law, if you like, when did it exactly start? And Aaron, you left a very good point, the 2015 security laws and the changes in there. And it's been a consistent sort of question that, and this particular juncture is when Kenya changed, in a way. Explain to us, from your view, because you raised it, and there's an accusation actually that Odiem doesn't have a point of view by raising 2015. Like nothing wrong happened in the security laws.
Well, definitely the passage of the security laws in December of 2014, I recall it was in December of 2014 because I was campaigning for the Senate position. It introduced certain provisions in the law. These had come after some terror attacks had hit the country. And it was important for the state to update its legislation to help it to deal with the threat of terror. Unfortunately, the manner in which the amendment was couched meant that it could be applied even to civilians. There were certain powers that were extended to the National Intelligence Services, and the National Intelligence Service was given powers in that amendment, and it is in the law, and it's a fact, that it could seize, it could search your premises, not necessarily with a court warrant. And you know, the constitution of the existing laws required a court warrant for such searches to be conducted. Number two, it even gave the state powers to seek the orders or to seek the approval of the court to hold suspects for as much as 90 days pending investigations. The Constitution sets a 24-hour time limit within which someone should be presented. court, and it says that every offense is bailable. But through that amendment, we introduced something that would allow the state to hold you for longer after the 24 hours after being presented to court. There were issues touching on the rights of refugees. There were issues touching on the rights of public benefit organizations, what we have been calling non-governmental organizations. That is why you are hearing the voice of civil society in this country is extremely muted. And those ones that can be heard are those that have decided to go to bed with political players. So it is a fact that the security amendment laws that was passed with a lot of rancor allowed our security forces to do things which were meant to fight terrorism, but unfortunately they've been extended to civilian issues. And that is why today we are seeing Anti-Terror Police Unit, ATP, anti-terror, and that is a creation of those laws. We thought that it would be used against people who would threaten us, like the El Adea attackers, like the people who attacked our children in Westlands, but we are now seeing anti-terror police going to civilian houses and arresting people. And that law was passed with the jubilation and with the cheering and with the force of the Jubilee forces, some of whom Aaron Cheruiyot is speaking on behalf tonight. Number two, the question is, does the dog wag the tail or the tail wags the dog? Even if we were to say that Raila Odinga has attained or has gotten the approval or the support of President Uhuru Kenyatta to be the 5th president, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Deputy President William Ruto has been crying in every marketplace that it was supposed to be tano ya Uhuru na tano ya Ruto. And you can see he's angry. You can see he feels jilted. You can see he feels disappointed. You can see every time we are even invited to State House, like last week, I could see people like Aaron, they were, boiling with rage, saying that how can these buggers go to State House for something that we're the ones we fought for? So there's nothing wrong in the president supporting Raila Amolo Odinga. But when it comes to matters of security, when it comes to matters of deployment of the police, even if you wanted to put Raila in the picture, Raila could just be the tail, Uhuru is the dog. So does the tail wag the dog, or does the dog wag the tail? Let these guys come out clearly, direct their missiles to President Uhuru Kenyatta. But I told you they are cowards. They'd rather attack Raila Odinga, they'd rather attack CS Matiang'i, they'd rather attack Kibicho and everybody else. In fact, the deputy president has not spared any occasion to remind us that he's the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. You see, when you have fairly low self-esteem, that's when you have to remind everybody what your stature is. But yes, we know he's the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. Why can't he, in that very elevated position, ensure that the state is making the right decisions? It cannot be that Raila Odinga, who is not elected, could be directing the police to go and arrest Jimmy Wanjigi, and the deputy president, elected by millions of Kenyans, is watching helplessly and weeping from the roadside.
Is it true? You're fuming in the mouth that, Kajwang is going to State House.
Why would I fume? There's nothing to be excited about going to State House. Senator Moses Kajwang will of course be excited about it, and I saw him take selfies and excitedly move around. In fact, he reminded me of back in our primary school days when you had a school trip, you'd sleep in your school uniform. The night before Moses Kajwang went to State House, I believe he slept in his suit. But we are used to these things. Our days for going there are over and family behind us. So there's absolutely nothing.
You've accepted your position now?
Yeah, we have made peace with it, that the gentleman that we supported for the presidency shortchanged us. It's part and parcel of life. Not every human being keeps their word. That is what the life that Uhuru Kenyatta has chosen. We have made peace with it. Nobody's angry about anything.
Help me understand the shortchanging, because this is one thing that keeps on coming up, and the deputy president has said by himself that he doesn't need some support of the president.
This has nothing to do with the deputy president, but everything to do with us, members of his own party.
How are you shortchanged?
Number one, he has fought with many of us, removed many of my colleagues from committees, removed them from leadership through ways that are extra-constitutional, and people have chosen to live by the same. So forget even about the part of the deputy president, but think about it as the rank and file of his party, who did everything that was possible, actually, to get him elected in the 2 elections. That's what I speak about. But I want to come back to a point that Moses made. Moses spoke so well about the 2015 security amendment laws and what it was meant to achieve. But there's a part he mischievously omitted, which is a game changer in all this equation and the debate that is before us. All those things that he mentioned about being detained for a number of days, your premises being searched, he forgot conveniently so to mention that this can only be done if you are a suspect of terror. And when you are taken to court, because still, you must remember that there is no way that a legislation or an act of parliament can torpedo a constitutional provision. The Constitution still provides that for any person that is arrested, they must be presented before a court of law within 24 hours. So even with that legislation, you still must be presented to court. Then ATPU or actually DPP must convince that court of law that you're being tried under the anti-terror law, and therefore there is need for them to keep you longer than what is constitutionally provided. That's a bit that he conveniently forgot. None of these people that you are speaking about, not Jimmy Wanjigi, not my colleagues in UDA who are being persecuted, not those governors who are being threatened, including those who were in Naivasha yesterday, has been tried for terror. All of them, it is about political persecution. There is no law that permits that. Therefore, they need to get that particular clear with themselves. So it's not something to that you can wash away so easily by easily excusing the bad habit. You ask a very important question, James. When did this begin? I don't think we want to be bogged down by history about how long we've been at this, because you can date back as far back as 1963. But remember, Kenya turned over a new leaf when we promulgated the new constitution in 2010. It is our hope, and Moses is a good friend and a young leader, just like myself, that with the passage of the 2010 constitution, that would expand our democratic space, that we will be able actually to have a beautiful country where we may not agree, but we are not going to be disagreeable with each other, that we are not going to use instruments of state and, you know, the judicial system to fight our political wars. That is the one thing that ODM continues to miss the opportunity to actually live up to its credentials of being a democratic party by speaking out against these things. You know, Moses, when you speak the way you speak, trying to excuse this particular bad habit, then you send the feeling among us Kenyans that during the time when you were agitating for better governance and better laws for this country, that it was only for selfish reasons. That in as far as it is concerned, so long as it aids your political ambitions right now and it destroys those that are your political competition, where is the class in all this? I expect us to live in a country where if I see my political opponent is being actually attacked and humiliated, even if it is to my advantage, that I'll have the grace and the tenor to be leader enough and rise up and say, while Moses is my competitor and I'd wish to defeat him at the next election, what is being done to them is not right. As we speak today, ODM has not issued a statement about Jimmy Wanjigi, who they claim to be their member and a presidential candidate, and actually somebody who has actively contributed in making ODM what it is today. That is not how we should be running our democracy. I believe we can do better.
Senator, you say something important, but your side were not this gracious.
During a particular time?
In the 2013,
maybe case in point, I'll be more than glad.
We had sort of post-election violence 2017. We did not hear anything.
But we spoke about it. What did you say? Go through your clips. I used to be on this same studio with your former colleague, Ainea. On many occasions, many of us spoke to it and said, please, let us be decent in how we carry out our politics. Run back your clips from as early as 2017. In 2018, on the day that Raila Odinga saw himself in, I remember we were in this very studio with Miguna and a number of our colleagues, and we wished them well, and I said, please, we may not agree with what they are doing, but it is my hope that now no Kenyan will actually lose his life in the course of the day, because many of those people that go to these functions are young people like myself. It isn't my wish to see them being butchered and beaten by police. We must be consistent about it. Let's have some class. Let us be people who rise above petty partisan politics, that insofar as something is done to the disadvantage of Raila Odinga, I celebrate and say, it serves him well. I think it's a fair request, which as young leaders we should be held to account.
Agreed.
If there have been incidences in the past where we haven't lived up to those expectations, I believe this is a time to turn a new leaf.
It does not excuse the other side.
It doesn't excuse the other side. That's
a good
basically my point.
Oh, definitely, two wrongs can't make a right. And
Exactly.
my reference to the Security Amendment laws was not by justification. It was just a moment in our history which we could have made better decisions. Indeed, it is true that it was designed to curb the threat of terror. But even human rights organizations told us that these can be easily abused, because even the definition of terrorism was stretched in such a way that it could mean anything. And that is why, as I said earlier, you're seeing anti-terror police being involved in civilian arrests. If we did it wrongly, perhaps, and let me give credit also to those people who've been running our security services, that since then, we've not had a significant terror attack. Since then, we have seen a restoration of confidence. Even when you walk into a mall, you are more confident than it was some time back. Since then, we have not seen people being arraigned on trumped-up charges of terror. In Uganda, if you're a politician, Bobby Wine, etc., if the state is not happy with you, you'll be charged with terror, and then you'll be taken through in front of a court-martial, not even a conventional court. We have not reached there yet. So in as much
we don't wish to go there.
And we don't wish to be there. And in as much as the law could have been stretched to create such scenarios, I want to hail our security forces and those who manage our security systems that they have not taken us to those very dark corners that people feared we'd go to. But one of the things around persecution, if there is any party that has borne the brunt of political persecution, it is the ODM party and its followers. It is the ODM party and its partners. In the last general election, those of us who were with in the NASA coalition, when we took to the streets, when we protested against what we felt was electoral injustice, a lot of our young people were killed, shot by the police. A lot of our young people were injured. You remember the time when Raila Odinga was coming back from the United States of America, and we gave him a heroic welcome from the airport right to the city center. I was present. In fact, I was riding in the same car with Boni Khalwale, and we saw the extent of state cruelty. Property was damaged, lives were lost, people were maimed, young people, businesses, people lost businesses, some because of frustration by the police, and some because of organized thugs and militias that were brought out to repel us. We have gone through that, and as a leadership, we said we cannot continue living like this. And that is what prompted the handshake. You see, when we talk of handshake, there are those who, like an elephant, would touch it and only feel the tusks. There are those who, like an elephant, will touch it and feel the tail. But there are those of us who are seeing the restorative, the cure that the handshake brought to this country. If we had decided to hold on to grudges on how we had been beaten up, how we had been water cannoned in these streets opposite your office and next to Anniversary Towers, we would probably not be having a country today. We cannot celebrate the arrest of Jimmy Wanjigi. I personally cannot. And if Aaron feels ODM should put out a statement, I think he should allow ODM to run its affairs, let them put out a statement as UDA. ODM will do things in a proper manner. You see, as we speak, we are very speculative. We don't even know what charges are there. Within 24 hours, that is a constitutional provision. We will be presented to court. We'll know what the charges are. And some of us have been around. I remember when Mudhama was arrested over hate speech, we were with him at the DCI along Kiambu Road. I remember many of our colleagues, whenever they're in trouble, we come out to them. Two wrongs cannot make a right. The fact that the Jubilee team, when UDA was playing for them, beat us, maimed us, killed us, and killed our businesses. The fact that they did that to us then cannot make us wish that to happen to them. In fact, James, I wish that we could just forget, forgive, and turn a new leaf. On that, I agree with Aaron, that if we were to put on the table the number of injuries and the number of bullets that the ODM, NASA, CORD coalition has taken at the hands of the Jubilee administration, it would be impossible for us to sit on the table. But we have decided that this nation is bigger than all of us.
No, but you see, James, here's my point, and this is my battle with ODM, the thing that I cannot reconcile. The very nice things Moses says, unfortunately, cannot be matched by the action of his party. Take a case in point on Sunday. The Deputy President has a function in Jacaranda grounds. He has organized with his team. A member of parliament from ODM, that is the Honorable Babu Wino, goes ahead, organizes some group of young men, pays them. They come and disrupt rally. There's chaos. People are running around. Women cannot show up at the rally. Immediately after the function, even while we're still seated there, he's all over social media, sharing clips of how those people were chanting Raila, Baba the Fifth, ODM in that function, and people begin to call him out. You'd think that it is left only to a few babus of this world. Later on that evening, none other than Dennis Onyango, the spokesperson of Raila Odinga, issues a statement. You'd expect that he'd commend such activities and even have just a phrase that speaks to the violence and say, we encourage our supporters to keep off the activities of other political players because our day and time, that is what people do in mature democracies. What does he do? He excuses that kind of habit, gives a statement that is non-committal on what is the position of ODM on this violence. Yeah. None other than Raila Odinga. The day William Ruto had a function in Kondele, and he had the gracious chance, and these are the misses which Raila continues to have, which does not make him any different from those he has always accused of having maimed him and tortured his supporters when they had power. Because when William Ruto was attacked in Kondele, the following day Raila speaks, and what does he do? He appears to be excusing the bad manners of those young people. He said, oh, you know, those young people are saying, maybe you said something that hurt their feelings. Even if I say something that hurts your feeling, as a leader, is that what I encourage my supporters to do? Of course, I expect you to keep off from my function. Okay. Compare him with the Deputy President. When Linturi spoke, it didn't take him 24 hours to actually speak out and say, as a party, we don't agree with that kind of thinking, and put things in order. That is what is expected of a true Democrat. That if within your party, there are things that are done that are not proper and don't live to the, up to the true tenets of democracy, you call it out. This excusing of violence by ODM is something that we must discuss, because they must always be reminded that the fact that you've been victims in the past doesn't mean that you so all of a sudden become dumb because it is being done on your so-called passive political opponent.
A quick response. I wish they could leave. I wish they could leave ODM and Raila Odinga out of this. If you're being hammered by the state, it's the same government. You told us wembe ni ule ule, so wembe ni ule ule. I think it's unfortunate that an eye for an eye leads to a blind nation, but sometimes they say one good turn deserves another. But James, you see, when we went to Githurai, I was there. My car still bears the marks of the stones that rained on us in Githurai. And at that time, whatever investigations we did and whatever press statement we did pointed fingers at our colleague, Senator Mwaura, for having mobilized goons to attack us. They were quiet. When the Deputy President went to Kisumu, none other than the police told us that the altercation that occurred was as a result of a disagreement on how to share money. That the youth had been promised money, indeed they were given money, and whatever fracas there was because they were fighting on how to share that money. Raila Odinga is not a policeman, he's not an investigative officer. When the police has told you that the youth were not fighting the Deputy President, they were fighting amongst themselves to share the loot, how then do you expect Raila to go and counter-investigate what the police has already investigated? The issues that happened in Jacaranda, why do you want Raila Odinga to comment? Raila is not a member of UDA. He was not present there. He did not send anybody there. We leave it to the police. But we have been very consistent as ODM. And if you look at the manner in which we are doing our politics, in fact, I heard some of Aaron's colleagues complaining that the Raila they are seeing is not the Raila they know. That the Raila they know is the Raila of the streets. Is not the Raila they know is not a Raila of boardrooms. It is our strategy. We have decided to do boardrooms. We have decided to talk to people to unite the nation. We have said that we've been on the streets long enough. I have sat on the tarmac outside this building. I've sat on the tarmac outside Anniversary Towers.
And it's your time now to be in the boardroom.
I've jumped over the fence into the University of Nairobi, running away from tear gas. That is a past. I do not want Aaron and company to lead us there. Now, we want to unite the nation. We want to unite the nation. That's our agenda. We want to bring economic prosperity to this country. And where there is economic prosperity, injustice and inequalities usually come in. So we want to bring social justice. And the fourth one, we want to arrest corruption. Corruption has been the biggest charge, or if you count the number of charges that have been leveled against followers of the UDA party, it is corruption. It is one subject that they do not want to talk about. It is one subject that has taken many of their members to court. It is corruption, be they governors, be they members of parliament, be they supporters. It is a coalition of the corrupt. A coalition of the corrupt. I want to talk around that and the question of corruption and who should be the person to sort of go ahead and deal with this. And from both sides, who's actually, at the top, who has the moral authority to discuss corruption and deal with corruption. With all respect, you want to take a short break. When we come back, the question of corruption and surely, who's winning this election and why? My two gentlemen will chime on to that. Don't go too far.
Watu wa Kenya, Christmas has come early on Star Times. Pay 2 months today and get 2 months of higher bouquet to enjoy the best programs for the ladies this Christmas. Star Times, your best choice for family entertainment this festive season.
When talk turns to football in London, it is invariably about Chelsea, Arsenal and Tottenham. For so long, the big three teams in the capital city. After all, they have the history and standing that demands every move, result, player and manager is analysed and discussed thoroughly. All the news and analysis of European football on The Football Review.
That stupid judge friend of yours was supposed to help us, and he didn't do anything, period. And now he's involving the studio with what happened with Hema.
Well, they have no proof on it, and that's the reason why
Listen, I'm not going to spend a minute in jail, because that'll put an end to my career and my life over my dead body.
Whoa, Vanessa, hold on a sec. Put that away, don't touch it. Wait, didn't your dad get rid of that gun already?
Yeah, but when that woman who was blackmailing him turned up dead, that same day, my dad came to inform me he'd completely gotten rid of the gun.
Yeesh, Vanessa.
Buy a 50 by 100 plot of land for only 399,000 Kenya shillings. Leap up 350k and get an instant shopping voucher worth 10k pop. Call us on 0790 300 300 or visit our website on www.optiven.co.ke.
Everyone is asking me how to make it big. Sometimes you need to step back, focus, and find your own power.
Like using my skills?
Yeah, man. Like focusing on what makes you unique.
Using my skills and playing smart. Yeah, that's right.
Opportunity can be in front of you.
Use your skills and stand a chance to win big with our 500% win boost. This advertisement is brought to you by Bet Power.
With all due respect, welcome back. We're talking state of politics and the issues of cohesion and the issues of violence, but at the interesting juncture of corruption. Who, between Azimio and UDA, has the moral authority, if you like, to lead on corruption and discuss on corruption? Let's start with you, Aaron. You've been called the
coalition,
yes,
coalition of the corrupt.
Yes,
of course, Azimio Lamawe will, of course, refer to us that way. But here's the thing. I find this to be rather lazy or idle talk because constitutionally, there is no politician that is charged with the mandate of fighting corruption. So when you hear anybody go out and say, oh, this is my pledge to you, we have institutions, competent ones, that we have empowered constitutionally and also by way of legislative agenda, given them the room and the free rein. What I expect every leading political player and more so at the presidential level to do, and this is my challenge to them tonight, both to anybody who's a presidential candidate. If they are serious about slaying the dragon of corruption in this country, then they should only make one pledge to the people of Kenya, that they will be completely hands-off from the investigative agencies. The reason why corruption, that we cannot win the war of corruption in Kenya, is because we have selective persecution and we have cases that are politically instigated which cannot be sustained in a court of law. That's why many of the cases that he's talking about on many of my colleagues are dragging and cannot move. It's because many of them, when people are arraigned in court eventually after a weekend of drama and headlines, you know, what the drill has been, when DPP gets to court, the best he can do is, please allow us to detain this particular suspect for another 7 or 14 days as you conclude investigation. And you wonder, why were you doing? That has been our Waterloo in the fight against corruption. The pledge that I expect of any leading presidential candidate is that, one, they will allow the legislature to provide the funding that is needed to EACC, DPP, DCI. All these are independent institutions, and let them do their work. When you have people making promises such as, oh, you know, when KEMSA, and you know who the beneficiaries of KEMSA are, they are the famous friends of my good friend Senator Moses Kajwang. They are in all of them. Actually, if you attend an Azimio rally, I think one of the qualifications is that how much did you make from KEMSA? It's otherwise referred in the political circles of parliament, because among ourselves as colleagues, we know what really happened as a KEMSA coalition, because people are working then. So long as you proved that you are a prudent supporter of the handshake, you would walk out with an LPO. Remember what the president did? He came out and said, within 21 days, I'm going to try this particular, I want these people charged. It's now been 21 months. Nothing has happened. Why? Because of political interference. So I am as clear in my mind, as sure as sunset follows sunrise, that if you have politicians out of EACC, out of DCI, out of DPP, and not interfering with their work, we will slay the dragon of corruption.
The question of moral authority still remains, that there's this sort of trail of corruption, and every administration keeps on bringing these sort of new corruption, and we always have the same thing: we will fight corruption. We let institutions fight corruption. It's a frustrating talk.
No, none of them says we will let institutions. Most of them say, I will do it, and that is where the mistake comes in.
No, I disagree. I disagree. All elected leaders take an oath that they will protect, they will defend, they'll uphold the Constitution.
Yes.
And that Constitution has a Chapter 6 that talks about the basic minimum that all Kenyans, and even those in public and state officers, must aspire to as far as integrity is concerned. That makes it the responsibility of every elected leader. If they have a duty to uphold that Constitution, they have a duty to ensure that corruption does not become a culture in this country. The institutions Aaron talks about are morticians. They come at the tail end. By the time the DPP is telling the DCI to investigate, a crime is alleged to have been committed. And so we should stop focusing on the morticians and start thinking about those people who play a preventive role. A president can make declarations. In fact, we expect to hear those declarations from the leading presidential candidates. How do we fix a procurement system, a public procurement system, that is inevitably rigged to favor those people who are well connected? When we are doing our roads, when we are doing our SGR, when we are doing our public projects, are Kenyans getting value for money? And that cannot be fixed by the DPP, because by the time the DPP comes in, the crime is alleged to have been committed. And what remains is for someone to be sent to jail or not. So how do we fix rigged procurement systems? How do we
and this is, I want to tell me about what Azimio thinks about corruption. What's the clarity in sort of your side of coalition on how we're going to deal with corruption? Because it's a thing. Now, we know the institutions survive, we know all these things. What is the thing that your side is thinking on how to deal with this?
We are very clear that there is the curative and the preventive aspect of dealing with corruption. There are the institutions that have been established that have been playing the curative at the tail end when the crimes have allegedly been committed. We must invest in systems and processes that makes our procurement systems more transparent. We must revisit the Negwa Commission report that allowed public and state officers to do business with the government. I believe that that is untidy. Even if I was the richest man in Kenya and I'm elected president, what we must have is a system where you put your assets into a trust, a blind trust, so that when you're in office, I think the way Donald Trump was supposed to have done, I don't know whether he did it, but the Americans have a system. Those are the kind of preventive measures that we envision to ensure that there's no conflict of interest between those people in public offices and those who determine what goes to who. We also think that a proper application of Chapter 6 of the Constitution and the very many statutes. In fact, we don't even need any new laws. We just need enforcement. We need to ensure that those people who have been charged with offenses of corruption, I know in Kenya we say you are innocent until proven guilty, but we must ensure that those people are not in positions where they can influence the outcome of investigations. One final thing that we said, even when we are talking about the BBI proposals, we wanted to shorten the duration that is taken to consider economic crimes. We have an interesting situation. Governors who were voted out in 2017, in the last election, immediately thereafter, they were taken to court over economic crimes and corruption charges. Today, they are still in court corridors, and some of them are running for office afresh. I'll give you the example of the former governor of Nairobi. It's taken 4 years or 5 years of legal filibustering, and the matters are not coming to a consideration. That governor, he also has a constitutional right to be cleared so that he can participate in other activities in the country. But the people also have that constitutional expectation that they will be told whether the governor stole or not. And that's why we are saying that corruption cases should not drag too long. If there is a case on Aror and Timwarer, it should not have dragged for as long as it has dragged. If there was a case on Kemsa, it should not have dragged for as long as it has dragged. Those are some of the things that our side of the coalition has been very clear about. Unfortunately, on the other side, they've said that corruption is not a subject that they wish to talk about.
Straight question, how does it feel from your side of the coalition to be considered as, or to be termed as the coalition of the corrupt? How does it sit with you?
It doesn't bother us because we know who the real thieves are.
Who are the real thieves?
It's Azimio. That is where you'll find from 1963 the people who have rigged actually our economy and ensured that they impoverish millions of Kenyans, and only a few get to enjoy actually a system of administration where when you do budgets, they are only set up in line to benefit a few to the exclusion of the rest of the country, are found in the coalition that he belongs to. The rest of the small things that he keeps on talking about, oh, I don't know, this happened there and this happened. You know, in this city of Nairobi, back in the day, there was a game that street smugglers used to love playing. That if you chase them, when they have snatched your handbag or they've snatched your phone, they equally begin to shout, "Mwizi, mwizi." So they confuse the rest of the people because people on the street can't tell who is this that is being chased. Because the very person you're chasing, that is the same game that this gentleman continued to play. That after years and years of rigging our economy, they point out at others and say, oh, these are the thieves. Yet the truth of the matter, and that's why many Kenyans cannot agree with them. And that's why they are struggling. They have deployed state resources, including media, police, I don't know what, against our side of a coalition. The reason why they are struggling with that?
With all due respect, media is not a state resource.
No, I've said part of what has been deployed against us, including the media. I didn't say that it's a state resource. And here, you know, there's something else. You know, I mentioned earlier about the struggle, why we feel that political interference happens to be one of the greatest challenges or impediments why we cannot win this war on corruption. If you recall very well, and I've said this a couple of times when I've come here on NTV, that in 2018, during the by-elections, the senatorial campaigns in Migori, that the governor for Siaya, a neighboring county for both Senator Kajwang and myself, went on public podium and say, I hear there are people who are arranging my files in Nairobi. Let me tell them. And that time, a statement had been already issued actually by EACC that they were investigating acts of impropriety in Siaya County government. That so long as the handshake reigns, nobody will touch me. I thought it was a joke, but here we are. 4 years down the line, actually, true to his word, nothing has happened. That's why you saw the governors that were rushing to Naivasha yesterday. They were rushing to the laundry master Those things that you hear us talk about, that if you go to Upper Hill Dry Cleaners as a governor, you'll never face the state and be put to book, even if you have looted everything that is available in your county. It is a reality. And ask those governors who have not declared openly. And these are things that are known. Interview them. You don't even have to do it in deep detail. They'll tell you that they are being told in broad daylight.
We'll promise we'll talk to them.
That if you don't support this particular candidate in the next 2 weeks, we are sending state agencies on you. That is the kind of challenge that you're speaking about, that we want ourselves as a politicians, because we are marked with interest and we want to use it to persecute those who don't agree with us. Just keep off these institutions and organs of investigation.
Would you agree, though, Senator, that corruption has been one of the biggest problems facing this Jubilee government?
Who doesn't know that? It continues to be a struggle that we have faced as a country since 1963. And we hope that for once and for all, we can allow, I've told you, there is no rocket science in it. Let the politicians get their hands out of, you know, part of the challenge remains that anytime they come close to a political ally, they are told, please, go slow on this particular individual. Yet many of those cases and many of the people that keep the company of Senator Moses Kajwang know this for a fact. And that's why they are crowding his side of the coalition. Because they know once you're there, you're good and you're certain you'll never face the law.
Okay. So is that correct? Is that factual? Is it true that people are supporting your side because they're irredeemably corrupt?
I wish I was willing to have Aaron speak for a little bit longer so that I could understand what their position on corruption is. Because all he has done is to point fingers and take us back to history. The same history they tell us they're tired of listening to is taken us back to 1963 and invoked history, and they keep telling us to look forward. We are not going to fight corruption by pointing fingers. The Kenyan political system and structure has been built on corruption. And even if we go back to history, I cited the Ndegwa Commission that made those people who are in parliament, those people who are in cabinet, and those who are permanent secretaries become so powerful in doing business with government. If you look at the list of rich people in this country, and I saw Oxfam released a list of the wealthiest people, and thank God it was industrialists who were put on that list. But if you come back to the indigenous Kenyans and African population, the richest people are those who have had an occasion or opportunity to be public servants or to be state officers. And that is the truth. We must look at that monster.
We must correct that.
We must correct it.
Yeah.
And it's not just about saying that the governors are corrupt and that's why they're on the other side. I used to chair the Public Accounts Committee. Look, when Governor Waititu was impeached, just 3 or 4 weeks earlier, he had appeared before our committee in the Senate. In his book of accounts, there were entries relating to State House. There were entries relating to national government projects. And we asked him, you know, what is this? How can you keep such entries in your records? Of course, later on, they blamed it on IFMIS. That tells you that was very sloppy management of public resources and very sloppy accounting. Later on, he was charged. Was it because of his political convictions? I am convinced it is because of some of the actions that the Senate had undertaken. When we went to Samburu, we visited Samburu, and then thereafter, the governor of Samburu, my friend Moses Lennon Kulal, was arraigned before court. At that point, the Auditor General had raised pertinent issues around procurement in that county. I think the issue, I wish that the issue of corruption was an issue where we could all agree, both sides of the divide. Unfortunately, I think some strategists on Aaron's side have convinced them that Kenyans are so corrupt that they do not have a problem with a corrupt person leading them. It is the wrong notion. I have been moving around this city on Ubers. I have been moving around this city in supermarkets, talking to the attendants and the merchandisers. Kenyans are fed up. They're tired of corruption. And corruption is not just stealing the dams in Elgeyo Marakwet. Corruption is not just stealing KEMSA. Corruption is when your child is qualified for a job and he can't get that job because he's not politically correct or is not from the right ethnic community. Corruption is when your kid cannot get the High Education Loans Board loan and yet they're qualified. Corruption is when you cannot get medication in hospitals, in your local villages and all over the place. We must demystify corruption so that it is not just seen as an elite practice that happens at State House and happens at the Houses of Parliament. Corruption is there in every aspect of Kenyan's life, but many Kenyans are tired, and they would have loved unanimity so that they know that if they voted for Azimio, the fight against corruption that denies young people, women, and youth, and all sorts of disadvantaged opportunities, there will be a clear action plan. On the other side, I wish the UDA people were also giving us an alternative proposal. As we have said, that the gatekeepers, we must take care of them, but we must also invest in preventive approaches. We must restructure our system. We must restructure our procurement. We must remove politicians and public officers from doing business with government. We must digitize so that you do not have to pay for your file to be retrieved at the Ministry of Lands or at any other registry. All these ideas are part of our package.
I think we need to create another different debate for corruption, and we do a deep dive on it. But
there's something perhaps I'd quickly wish to hear from Moses, because he says he's struggling to understand our part of our strategy, or what we consider to be the quickest way to slay this dragon. I have made a proposal here that perhaps one of what, and I say this as a leader in Kenya, somebody who interacts with investigative agencies, all these people who work in these offices, and they, on many occasions, they confirm to us that the greatest threat to their work is political interference. I wish to hear from him if they don't consider that to be a threat, actually, to this, what they consider the fight against corruption. If, according to them, they feel it is okay so long as if you're politically correct, somebody can make a phone call and, you know, hold on to your cases and not allow it to progress in the manner in which, if they don't feel that to be a threat, then it will be good for us just to be clear about it, because he says he struggles to understand.
I would gladly give two examples. Yes. We had the Gupta files in South Africa. Jacob Zuma had built a political system where the things he did, he never considered it to be corruption. He felt that since he was in ANC, he had fought for the liberation of the country and the end of apartheid, and he was entitled to the resources of the country. Next door, Yoweri Museveni started as a revolutionary, but with time, he has said that they went and hunted for the animal, they've brought the animal, they have a right to eat it. The political culture in a country can mainstream corruption to a point where
it's an infrastructure of political infrastructure.
Institutional,
such that when you go to a church and give out 1 million shillings every other weekend, in excess of your public and legal earnings, you tell people who criticize that no one appointed them to be your auditors. Because just like Jacob Zuma, they feel entitled to the largesse of the state, and they feel that they've got a duty to redistribute it by giving out wheelbarrows, giving out cash donations. They don't see that as corruption, and yet that is classical corruption.
You know, James, James, no, we'll leave this topic, but there's just something I need to remind you. Actually, here's a divide. Those of us in my side of political divide see this as an institutional problem, something that needs to be fought by ensuring that our institutions of accountability are properly strengthened and left to do their work. What they rely on is actually cheap talk in political rallies, but the action is completely opposite. Little wonder, James, why 10 years down the line, there is no ODM-led county assembly that has ever brought a single governor to book because of all the issues of maladministration that we see in our county assemblies. How do they manage to do that? Because many of these governors in ODM pay their protection fee to the laundry owner at Capitol Hill. That's why when MCS try to make any move there at all, you will be removed as a whip, as a leader. And these are things which MCS says.
All right.
That is the difference between us and them.
I wish you could talk about the practices in UDA and stop
but we have impeached as many governors as possible.
All this fiction that he has had in his mind since the show started about ODM and its leadership. We are the Azimio la kumaliza ufisadi.
Azimio la mawe.
Thank you very much. That's the absolute final one, with all due respect. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming in. Senator Moses Kajwang, thank you very much. You've done well. Please come again. And Aaron Cheruiyot, obviously, fierce debater. Okay. Please come again.
Thank you. Thank you, James.
We've had a great night, with all due respect. Please have a live night. We do this every Tuesday, every week, on the same station every night. Please have a lovely night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.